Good afternoon and welcome. I'd like to welcome you to the 11th Annual Silver Circle Honors. I'm Steve Novak, President of the Chicago Midwest Chapter. I'm so happy to see so many of you here today. Every year when we do this show, we go out of our way to make sure that the Packers aren't playing at home. This year we went even further. We made sure that the Packers weren't playing at all. And for a lot of you, we made sure that the Brewers, unfortunately, were not playing at all. I'm sorry. Coming from Chicago, I'm really sorry. I wanted the Brewers going. If they were going to beat the Cubs, I wanted them to go all the way. But having said that, we're going to talk about the event at hand. We gathered today to celebrate those who have made significant contributions to Milwaukee and Madison broadcasting for more than a quarter of a century. And we celebrate our colleagues' hard work, many talents, and commitment to excellence. Before we start, I'd like to say that we'd like to send our deepest condolences to the family of Tom Hooper, a 2010 Silver Circle honoree from WITI who passed away after spending more than 35 years in the business. And our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Prior to today, 57 local television professionals have been inducted into the Wisconsin Silver Circle. I'm pleased to tell you that we have 20 of these past honorees with us here today. I'd like to ask them to stand and remain standing until every name has been called. And if you can please hold your applause until the end, we won't delay this program. And I will also tell you, I am going to try really hard not to botch the names, but I don't promise anything. James Angeli, Sean Downs, Joyce Garbasiak, Mike Gusha, Daniel Jones, Dennis Kraus, Marianne Lazarski, Tony Lucas, Kathy Michaelby, Dan Needles, Jim Paschke, Ted Perry, Tom Pippins, Renee Raffelli, Gary Reistad, Sally Severson, Tim Van Voren, Ken Wainscott, Joanne Williams, and Jim Wilson. It's now my honor and privilege to introduce today's MC. She's a respected Milwaukee journalist who has worked for a couple of local television stations and in Chicago. She currently hosts Milwaukee Public Television's award-winning Black Nouveau program and is a 2009 Silver Circle honoree. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Joanne Williams.
So thank you very much, Steve. Thank you all for coming today. Steve was very gracious and asked me to help him make sure he got all the names pronounced correctly. However, the ones that were a little shaky, he didn't ask me about. So I thought, you got those. Next year, Steve will go through the whole list. Yes, my name is Joanne Williams. And as we all know, when you're doing television news, you go out on the street and you meet lots of people, and since I don't do day-to-day news anymore, people will come up to me and they'll say, "Oh, you're still at it." And I'll tell them, "Yes, I'm still at it. I'm at PBS now, and I host Black Nouveau." And they will say, or else they'll say, "Oh, I know you. I know you." We've all had this experience. "I know you. Your name is Joyce." And I'll say, "No." They'll say, "Yes, it is. Your name is Joyce." And I'll say, "No, you're thinking of Joyce Garbasiak." Yeah, that's it." I'll say, "No, Joyce is taller and blonde." And they'll say, "Oh, okay." Sometimes if they're really, really insistent, I will just say, "Yes, I'm Joyce," and just keep right on going. Joyce, do you ever get asked if you're me? So that brings your ego down to ground level very quickly. and when they still say you're still doing it. So this year, it's full of surprises. This is a year full of surprises for all of us. Who would have believed that we would have just covered the first events and games in a brand new Milwaukee Bucks arena, the Fiserv Forum, and would be looking forward to the demise of the BMO Harris Bradley Center, a building that many of us covered from inception and now construction and soon demolition. Isn't that hard to believe? However, I want to say, and I think you will join me in saying thank you, Lloyd and Jane Bradley Pettit, for what they did for Milwaukee. Yes. Who would have thought we'd be spending so much time talking about midterm elections? And who wants to talk anymore about midterm elections? Let's just get it over with and move on to something else, like the next elections. And personally, I am just happy at all to be here this afternoon, and very grateful that I am. So thank you very much for letting me come and MC today's program, and I hope you enjoy the show. You're going to hear a lot about sports this afternoon. You've already heard a little bit about it. I had a really good reference in my speech about who'd have thought we'd be covering a World Series. Yeah, who'd have thought it? Never mind. We span different eras in today's program. We have a lineup of honorees from a sports anchor who covered everything from bowling to Vince Lombardi. Another sports anchor more familiar with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. We'll honor a sports photographer who has been an eyewitness to some of Wisconsin's biggest games over the last decades. And we're also honoring an engineering pioneer and a trailblazing photojournalist who's been on the front lines of some of the biggest stories in the state of Wisconsin in the last many years. This year's honorees excelled in this highly competitive business and all-consuming business, and we pause here to thank them for sharing their professionalism and their many talents with us. Today we celebrate their countless achievements and their humanity. When we look at who should get the Silver Circle, we look at what they've done professionally. We also look at what they've done outside of the job. Everybody here has also benefited their community, not just their job. So we say thank you for that. As Steve said, we want to recognize the passing of a 2010 Silver Circle honoree, Tom Hooper, who passed over the weekend, who made a great impact on television news in Milwaukee. Now it's time to give some love to our friends from Madison. Yay, let's hear it from Madison. Here to present our next honoree, Jay Wilson, is Jill Whipfley. Come on up.
Good afternoon. I am honored to be able to introduce Jay today. Actually, I'd probably put these on so I can read. This career has introduced a farm kid from Wisconsin to countless extraordinary experiences. There aren't many with his work ethic, which probably started by growing up on a farm. When your day starts with chores and then an hour bus ride, you learn hard work pretty early. So after almost 40 years, you still start your week every Monday with the Monday morning press conference. Then you hoist a camera and to multiple sidelines throughout the day, go back and edit, and then still hit your mark at 6:22 and 10:22. Being an unbiased journalist is really important to you. You work hard to tell both sides of the story, and you still believe in that old adage, if you care who wins, you're in the wrong place. You've been blessed to cover some of the most coveted events in sports. The Rose Bowl, Super Bowls, Final Fours, PGA events, All-Star Games, Frozen Fours, and Heisman Awards. But as amazing as those events are, where you really shine is local, high school, and prep sports. The kids and I have lost count of the number of times fans come up to you to tell you that you covered their match-winning point or their personal best, or you called their game at a state tournament. Of course, now some of them come up with a grandchild on their hip because their personal moment was like 40 years ago. But you still provided them with their memory. So it's only fitting that you should be receiving a Lifetime Career Achievement Award. Because during the course of your career, you have provided countless athletes and parents with the coverage of their once-in-a-lifetime accomplishment. You make a connection with everyone you meet, whether it's on a football field or in the grocery store. You're gracious and genuinely interested. You don't realize the impact that you've had on people. A couple of weeks ago, there were two local announcers were calling a high school football game on TV. And during halftime, they were chatting up, and one of them mentioned Jay. And they spent the next few minutes talking about what a great guy you are, that you gave them their first opportunity, that you really helped them out and showed them the way. Until one of them finally said, "We probably should stop talking about him. He works for the other station." So when you think of the late nights and the stadium food, the road trips, the awful hotels, and the missed holidays, it's all worth it because the kids are so proud to say that my dad is Jay Wilson. So if you'd welcome, now we will watch Jay's video.
Growing up, I used to watch a lot of sports on TV. I read the sports page in the newspaper every day, and I listened to about 5 baseball games a night on the radio. And my mom always said, "Jay, don't pay so much attention to sports because you're never going to make a living at it."
In November of 1980, Professor Jim Hoyt was having lunch at Marsh Shapiro's Nitty Gritty restaurant. Marsh, the sports director at WKOW-TV, needed to hire a weekend sportscaster. Professor Hoyt said, "I think I know one." He recommended Jay Wilson, fresh out of the journalism school at the University of Wisconsin. It turned out to be a pretty good thing for everyone. Hoyt got a free lunch, Shapiro didn't have to work the weekend shift anymore, and Wilson embarked on a TV career that's lasted almost 4 decades. After 4 years at WKOW, it was time for a new challenge, a bigger market. So Wilson moved on to WISN-TV in Milwaukee, but it didn't take long to realize Madison was home for Jay and his wife Jill, who grew up there. So it was back to Madison to return to WKOW as sports director in 1987. Over the next 29 years, Wilson became known as the Dean of Madison sports, covering the Badger football team's rise to Rose Bowls, the Badger basketball team's 3 Final Four trips, and 20 years as the lead play-by-play voice of the WIAA state basketball tournaments. In 2006, Wilson decided the rigors of local television had taken their toll, and he retired from WKOW. He became a play-by-play voice and reporter for Big Ten Network and expanded his roles with Fox Sports Wisconsin as well. He's had a front-row seat for some of the most memorable moments in Wisconsin sports history, and his experience helped put him in some unique positions.
The very first Rose Bowl, coming off the field after the celebration, after the post-game interviews, and running to the locker room, and it's just hectic, and there's Jay sitting there with a camera, and just said, "Can I get an interview?" And I said, "Absolutely." I thought so much of Jay, naturally I stopped.
Coach Alvarez? Here's Barry Alvarez, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm doing this with you, Jay.
You know, we got a really thing going here.
This is nice. I like meeting you like this.
Well, the next 2 times, I anticipated Jay being right there. I said, "Well, we meet in the strangest places." But, all 3 Rose Bowls, everybody's out in the middle of the field, and Jay's sitting back kind of in a secluded place back by the locker room under the stands. And between celebrations on the field and in the locker room, been able to spend a couple really quality minutes and great minutes.
Now, it wasn't always perfect. Everyone knows that live local television has its uncomfortable moments.
I got nothing to throw to. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, we got no bites. We got no Alvarez. We got no feed. We got nothing.
The field house where Jay Wilson is fighting laryngitis. Jay, can you talk, sir? No. Before he lost his voice, Jay put together a preview of tonight's game.
Hi, I'm Jay Wilson.
And I'm Andy.
Hi. There's an airplane. An aeroplane.
I'm just laughing because he screwed up his name.
In the end, the good times have far outweighed the bad. Jay's been honored to be inducted into the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association and Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association, and today adds the Silver Circle to his list of lifetime achievements. How much longer will it run? Who knows? The days of the 40-year local television sportscaster may be numbered, but there's at least one more. The Dean of Madison TV Sports, Jay Wilson.
Tom Pippins, 10 minutes, parking lot, bring the walker. You may be wondering why I'm hobbling around all over the place. Well, when you turn 60, stuff happens. I'm getting hip replacement surgery Tuesday. That's 2 days from now. And I can't wait, but at least I have my friend here. And we named our friend, you know what we call him? Lorenzo. Get it? Or too soon, I don't know. My dad always told me two things. One, always go to a round church so the devil can't corner you. Two, no one ever said, gee, I wish that guy at the podium would have stayed up there and talked longer. Especially when he's the last guy. It sucks to follow Hank Stoddard. I want to thank the Chicago Midwest chapter of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences for presenting all of our recipients today with the Silver Circle Award. I want to thank my family for coming here today. My great in-laws, Paul and Bonnie Brown, are here from Madison. My brother Don and his wife Pam are here from Kenosha. And my wife and I, Jill and I, are so proud of our children, mainly because they went under their limit for data use on their cell phones last month, and we had rollover data for the first time in like forever. So kids, thank you very much. I got to brag on them a little bit. Our youngest son, Brett, made the dean's list in his freshman year at UW-Eau Claire. Sophomore year, we're still waiting. Our middle son, Connor, was part of the 2011 WIA State Boys Golf Championship team at Middleton High School. He's here with his girlfriend, Morgan. And our oldest daughter, Katie, is a fantastic science teacher at Greendale High School. And Katie and her husband, Spencer, just let us know they're expecting our first grandchild next year. And we had the gender reveal party last night. There's gender reveal parties now, and it's a boy. Just one. And this is my wife, Jill, who introduced me today.
And it sucks to go after Mike Couchet.
Let's see, I've got hip replacement, I gotta wear glasses. We had to go past Couchet and Stoddard? Yeah, this day is really going great, isn't it? You've heard this as part of the speeches today, but my wife Jill is the one who deserves this award, without a doubt. The Wisconsin Badger football team has been to 23 bowl games in the last 25 years. The Packers have made the playoffs 15 of the last 19 years. The Badger men's basketball team had made the NCAA tournament 19 straight seasons. That means I'm away from home a lot, especially every year between Christmas and New Year's at bowl games. And that left my wife pretty much to raise our three children on her own with the help of Paul and Bonnie, my great in-laws. But my wife never complained once, not once, at least not to me. Now, there were some times in the car when she had the music really loud and she was screaming at the top of her lungs, I know that. But she never complained to me, and that meant the world, and it still does. Thank you. When you get an award like this, you think a lot about how, in fact, you got here. The odds of a nearsighted, geeky kid from a farm in central Wisconsin having a 4-decade career in broadcast journalism are pretty slim. I was going to be a chemical engineer, mostly because the nuns at Wisconsin Rapids Assumption High School told me I should be a chemical engineer. But one day I said, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's how I got on the road to where I got to today. When you look back at nearly 4 decades in broadcasting, you think about all the people who helped you go along the way. It all started at WFHR Radio in Wisconsin Rapids, where General Manager Jack Gennaro, Arnie Strope, and Terry State gave me a break in the business that I needed. In television, it was Jim Hoyt, Marsh Shapiro, and Terry Shockley opening the door. And I get to be the guy in front of the camera. The guy gets all the credit, but there's a lot of people who do a lot of the work to help make you look good. And you may not all know all of these names, but people like Chris Kerwin, Mike Fuller, Chris Lazat, Emily Cumlin, Mark Grappentine, Mac Charlton, Bob Gessling, and today Melissa Kim and Kevin Lewis, and especially 2 of my best friends in the industry, Randy Allen and Andy Kendi. They helped make my career what it has been, and I'll be forever grateful to them for that. When I was growing up on a farm in Wisconsin Rapids, I couldn't have imagined that I've had such a great life with a great family and a great career. Yeah, there was a lot of hard work. Yeah, there were a lot of long nights. Yeah, there was a lot of frustration, but the bottom line, it's been worth it, every step of it. And I thank you all for helping us recognize and honor people in the broadcasting industry who has stuck with it for a very long, long time. It's almost unbelievable to think that my name's going to go next to so many of the great names ever. And for that, I'm humbled and grateful. And once I get my new hip Tuesday, I might be good for another 40 years. Thank you.